Oracle beat the number. Revenue record. Earnings record. And the stock dropped 10% overnight. We have seen this movie before. And today on the chart, we show you exactly why after market recap. Here is your overnight recap for Thursday, June 11th. In Asia, the Nikkei fell 1.89% to 64,179. The Hang Seng fell 0.64% to 24,407. In Europe, the DAX fell 0.97% to 24,195. The CAC fell 0.51% to 8,161. The FTSE was flat at 10,227. In the U.S. on Wednesday, it was a heavy day across the board. The Nasdaq fell 1.98% to 25,169. The S&P 500 fell 1.62% to 7,266. The Dow fell 1.87% to 49,918, back below 50,000. Three things drove markets lower on Wednesday. First, CPI. Inflation came in at 4.2% year-over-year for May, the highest reading since April 2023. Energy prices jumped 23.5% year-over-year, driven by the Iran conflict. Energy alone accounted for over 60% of the monthly increase. Core CPI, which strips out food and energy, was 2.9%, still above the Fed's 2% target, but far more contained. Second, the Federal Reserve. With CPI at 4.2%, the Fed has no room to cut. Markets are pricing a 96.3% chance of no change at next week's June 18th meeting. Higher for longer is back on the table. Third, SPCX. SpaceX prices tonight after market close and begins trading on NASDAQ tomorrow, Friday, June 12th, for the very first time. IPO price is $135 per share. Yes, and now we move the interesting part. Oracle. The chart tells a powerful story that starts long before Wednesday night's earnings. Pull back on the daily chart and you can see the full journey. Oracle hit an all-time high back in September 2025, then spent the next 5 months selling off hard, all the way down to the one-year low marked on the chart at $135. That is a massive drawdown. Then from February 2026, the recovery began. 68% higher over 4 consecutive months, all the way back up to the pre-earning top at $250.25 marked on the chart. Here is the critical point. By the time Oracle walked into earnings on Wednesday, the EMA 20 was at 207. The MA 200 was at 206. The stock had already priced in a strong beat. The good news was already in the price. Oracle closed Wednesday's session at $201.26. Then the earnings hit. Overnight, the stock dropped another 10% to around $180. Now sitting right between the first support at 195 and the second support at 183 on the chart. On the indicator chart, look at the RSI reading on Wednesday's close, 49.43, already at mid-range before the after-hours drop. The W%R is minus 77.7, signaling oversold conditions. And the MACD has crossed bearish at minus 2.27, with the histogram turning red. But here is the real lesson. Before earnings, Oracle had run 68% in 4 months. When a stock runs that hard going into a report, the RSI was elevated throughout that run. When RSI is elevated going into earnings, that means traders who bought early are sitting on big profits. The moment the number drops, no matter how good it is, those traders take profits. They sell the news. Oracle beat on revenue. Oracle beat on earnings per share. Oracle posted record annual results, and the stock dropped 10%. Why? Because the CapEx number spooked investors. $55.7 billion in capital expenditure for the year, and free cash flow was negative $23.7 billion. The market is asking one question. When does all that spending turn into profit? Until Oracle answers that clearly, every beat comes with a side of selling. 3 things to take away today. 1, Oracle beat on every metric and dropped 10% overnight. That is not a contradiction. That is sell the news. The 7th time this year on this channel. When a stock runs 68% before earnings, the good news is already priced in. 2. CPI at 4.2% means the Fed stays on hold at next week's June 18th meeting. Higher for longer keeps pressure on tech valuations. Watch the Fed's language carefully. Any hint of a hike would send markets lower again. 3. SPCX prices tonight and opens for the very first time tomorrow, Friday, June 12th. The next chapter of the biggest IPO in history begins tomorrow. That is your Global Market Pulse Daily for June 11th, 2026. Subscribe for tomorrow's update. Posted every morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. Happy trading.